What's up YouTube, this is GalacticGod, and I'm coming at you now with the deck list video of the old school decks that we used in the most recent Duel video series. I'm going to go over the deck that I chose to run, and the deck that my good friend Gimbledon chose to run. They're almost identical, there's just a few different, I guess, tech card choices, if you will, that make them, remotely different. Anyhow, so this is the deck that I ran in the Duel video series. I used Chaos Emperor Dragon, BLS, and Yada. Those are your three main big boss cards. Yada, of course, we're getting Yada Lock, and then BLS and Soldier. BLS and Chaos Dragon going for your ultimate game wins. We also ran 3 copies of the Dark Magician of Chaos. Crazy that this card was ever set at 3, ever in any point in time. I remember way back in the day, one of the things you could do is if your opponent already Painful Choice their DMOCs in the graveyard and you had yours in the graveyard, you could Monster Reborn all 3 of theirs and then 2 of yours all in the same turn, just flood out 5 DMOCs so that they didn't have something like a Call of the Haunted or something to grab theirs back or anything like that. You were just going to get 5 DMOCs on the field. It was pretty crazy. From there we played a Witch and Sangan, of course. I played both jars, including Cyber Jar and Fiber Jar. I used Serpent and Tribe Infecting Virus. I played 3 copies of my Magician of Faith. These are my main light targets. I also had Breaker the Magical Warrior. This was pretty standard to have your 1 Breaker in the deck back in the day. For another light target, one of my tech choices was DD Warrior Lady, and my final tech monster choice was Exiled Force. Just good back in the day cards. And that's going to round up my monsters. For the spells, I chose to run, of course, Pot of Greed and Graceful Charity, your 2 best draw cards in the game ever, probably. From there, I also had Painful Choice, and one of my personal favorites, Mirage and Nightmare. Awesome card. Too broken and too many decks now, made things extremely fast, especially, with the 3 mysticals that were out at the time. From there, you have your Monster Recursion with Monster Reborn and Premature Burial, your Monster Takeage, if you will, with Snatch Steal and Change of Heart. I chose to run all 3 copies of the, Hand Disruption with Delinquent Duo, Forceful Sentry, and Confiscation. Monster removal, I played Dark Hole and Regeki. And then for backfield removal, I had Harpy's Feather Duster and then the 3 MSTs. I didn't run heavy in my build, mostly just because of space reasons. And I felt like this was more than enough backfield removal, especially with Breaker and Chaos Dragon and all that kind of stuff. For traps, I ran Imperial Order, Ring of Destruction, Mirror Force, and then I had 2 copies of Wabaku in my deck. I just remember way back in the day when I originally used to play that Wabaku was usually a godsend, as when they would go to wipe out your backfield with Heavy Storm or Harpy's Feather Duster or something like that, is because they're getting ready to make a huge play and probably going for game. And so Wabaku was like your only real saving grace, because there was no Gores or Battle Fader or Scarecrow or anything like that that was going to save you back then. Anyways, those are all the cards I ran in my deck. Alright, so I'm going to quickly go over the cards that Gimbledon ran. Almost identical. There's probably, I think, maybe 6 or 7 card just choice difference between them. He, of course, ran Chaos Dragon, Soldier, and Yada, Witch and Sangan, Tribe and Serpent. He ran his 3 DMOCs, his 3 Magician of Faiths. He chose to run 2 of the White Magical Hats. This was instead of his DD and Exiled Force that I had in mind. So he also had the Breaker, and then he ran just Cyber Jar, no Fiber. Instead, he chose to run Spirit Reaper, as that's the way he was going for his Hand Disruption. For spells, he had, of course, Pot, Graceful, Painful. Of course, he had Snatch and Change of Heart, Monster Reborn, Premature Burial, Regeki, Dark Hole. He ran not only Harpy's Feather Duster, but he also had his Heavy Storm and his 3 MSTs. He also chose to run the 2 Noblemen of Crossouts mostly because of the Magicians. I didn't like running Crossouts because the only other light target I had was DD Warrior Lady, so I didn't like crossing out their Magician, because then that would in turn lose 3 of my 4 main light targets. And then he chose to run 2 Book of Moons to kind of round up his spells. And then for traps, he was just running the Imperial Order, the Solemn Judgment, Ring of Destruction, and the Mirror Force. And that kind of rounds up the cards he chose to run. Alright guys, and there you have it. These were the two decks that we used in our most recent old school duel videos. Remember to let us know what you think of these decks down in the comment section below. And if you were going to play a deck in this format, what card choices would you have made? What cards do you think you would have played differently than us? How would you have built your deck? Please let me know. And I guess that's about it for now. This is GalacticGod, out.